Hi everyone. This video is about callbacks, promises, and async wait. How do we use them in JavaScript or Node.js? So this is not a very detailed, but someone who is trying to learn JavaScript or the Node.js callbacks, promises. So it will be helpful. I hope it will be helpful. So I will just go over what is callback, what is promise, and async wait with some examples. Basically, I assume like you already know some details, are aware of what is Node.js, what is JavaScript, and how to install Node.js in your local machines. So I'm not covering those details. I am assuming everything you have, the latest, either the latest or at least version 14, Node.js 14 version in your local. So basically, I am also new to the Node.js. I learned all these. I gone through different tutorials, YouTube's, online materials, everything, and I will try to explain what I learned and hope it will help you as well. So basically, callbacks are the functions that will be invoked when basically these are the ways to handle the asynchronous code. So what is asynchronous means? Um, Asynchronous means like you invoke something and you don't have to wait for the return value of that function, right? So for example, you're fetching some data from the backend, right? Let's say you're calling an API endpoint. Let's say fetch data. So let's say this is an API call, and let's say the data is some data equal to this one fetch data, and it let's say it is making some API call using the XCS or some other frameworks. Let's say fetch slash API data. So this is gonna fill, let's assume that this is gonna pull the data from API, and you after data you wanted to something, right? If let's say process the data, something like that. So here, like so let's say this is taking like 10 seconds, right? And after you get the data, you want to process this data, and after that you want to do something else, right? Since JavaScript or Node.js is a single-threaded process, so if this is going to take time and you are waiting for this, and it will not be able to process the subsequent statements. This won't be processed in this case, and it will be still waiting. So you want to make this is asynchronous, right? You want to make this asynchronous, meaning you don't have to wait for the API call to respond. You can process like whenever it is, whenever we receive the response from the backend. So in order to make it this kind of calls asynchronous, we use either of this one. So async await is, I think it's in the recent ES6, ES 2017, at least for ES6. I think it's introduced in ES 2016 or 17. I don't remember exactly, but this is a recent one. Either you can use async await or promises or callbacks, but all of them are related. It's not that you use async await, you cannot use this one, but async and async wait, async or async await are the ways to basically these are the syntactic figures of the promises. We'll go to details like what it is and how. So I'm just giving you like what is asynchronous coding and how we can use them, right? It's important to understand what is callbacks first. So I have a small test.js module. Um, so basically, first we have the just to print like what when we run the test.js, you will see hello world, and this is the predefined or the existing functions in the Node.js and basically JavaScript, right? So JavaScript and Node.js both are using the V8 engine, right? So Node.js is using the V8 engine internally to convert the JavaScript into the machine understandable code. So this can be used in both JavaScript and the Node.js. So this is basically a function that is taking callback. You see here the definition callback. So this is the callback function, and what it is telling us, you run this program or this function, callback function, after 5000 milliseconds, right? So that's saying like you don't have to wait, right? So you don't have to wait like 5000 seconds, milliseconds, and then come to this one. So you already um, given instruction to JavaScript to run, engine to run this function after 5000 milliseconds. Until then, I can continue to work on the rest of the statements. Right, so let me start and run this program. What happens? If you guess correctly, if you already know these callbacks, I know you get answered, but if somebody is new, then they would definitely think something is going to run hello world 1, then this one, hello from set timeout, hello world 2, right? But it won't, because I'm saying like this is a callback function. So I just explained like callbacks are something that will be invoked after we get the response from backend, after we specify. In this case, this function is saying run this after 5000 milliseconds. So this will be executed after 5000 milliseconds. So it won't wait for this 5000 milliseconds, right? So it will go ahead and run this first, and then it will run this second one. So I would expect, right? So you already see like I just ran it. I can run one more time here. Node discharge is, see, hello world 1 and hello world 2 still running the 5000. So it's basically waiting here. So you got the response here. See? So that's how like hope you understand this one. At least you got some idea like what is callback, how that gets executed, and how it's executing the rest of the statement while it's waiting for the callback to complete. Let's go back to promises. So I have already a promise, so I'm going to explain what is promise and how it's used here. So I already have a promises chain, and here you see this one. I have a promise, the object promise, right? So we're creating an object of promise, and it's taking a constructor. The constructor is a function here. So basically what it is doing here, if you look at this syntax here, right? So it's taking a function. So that function has two parameters, resolve and reject. So basically if some condition is true, it's going to execute whatever is in this. And if it's rejected, means some error executing that logic or something, right? Here you can make a call to API, and if it gives an error, or here you can make a call to the API or something, and if something goes wrong, you can reject the promise. So you're saying like you're not able to satisfy that promise. So basically you're saying I'm rejecting your promise. Okay. So this is reject. So there will be two only. So when it is success, you can say it's a resolve, right? So success is resolved here. So promise is resolved, promise is rejected. So if it is success, you will always get a response. This is like you can also say return promise dot resolve. It's all. So what the value of this function is, like first promise, if it is success, promise will be resolved. If it is rejected, you will get this value from this promise, right? So this is a way to handle, right? So this if you are making a call to the API, sometimes you may get you may get the positive response, or you will get error. So in case of errors, you can reject that. So this is one of the ways to make the asynchronous calls, right? So basically here we are using one function again, the promise within the function we are using, and that is taking a callback, right? Yeah, so we can run this one and see how that's executed here. So let's say before running that, I already made some more changes. I have created another promise. So this is also similar to that other one, and this is again this is a wrapper around the promise, right? So this is a function that's taking a promise, it's returning a promise basically, right? So again the same thing. I didn't write any reject here. I only wrote the resolve. So the resolve, and so this is the way we can use the promises that we just created, right? So using promise chain example, let's say we created a first promise, and so how do we consume that promise, right? So we discussed about callbacks, and we discussed about what is promise, but promise very high level, but this is how we are going to make use of them, right? So when you make a first promise, it is going to call the promise, and so you so then once this is executed, right, whether we get a resolve value or reject value, right? So then I'm going to consume them here. So then I'm going to consume them in the hello promise. So and then it's going to the hello promise again. It's going to run this one, right? So because there is no reject, it's always resolve. So it's resolve is going to return this value, and I'm going to print that message. So when you run this hello promise, you'll get some value, right? I successfully something. I'm printing that message, and now I'm going to yeah, sorry. So we can run this and see what's going to happen. Like now promises change.js. So promise is resolved. So why is it running promise is resolved? Because we didn't make any calls here, right? So it's going to run only the first one because it's just a promise. So I will try to run this first promise. Let's make the call to this demo promise. See what happens. So now it's actually calling the flow like first from the beginning, right? So basically this is what we are making one more function that will make calls to the promises. So my first promise is going to call, then it's going to, so if you go to my first promise, so we just put a one console out. The promise is result, it's printing the result, and then it's going to hello promise, and then if you put hello promise, we are returning the hi, how are you, and you get the hi, how are you, right? So that's how it's printed. Um, And this is like you might have seen that it's a lot of callbacks, right? So here one callback, and here you see this one callback. If you look at from the bottom, this is one function. This is making a using the promise and then getting the callback response here, and then making another call. So all this callback helps. So um, we are going to see how we can improve this using the async await. That will be in next video. Thanks for watching.